true, true,
True.
Yeah. Let's go.
True.
Yerp. What's good? What's good? How are y'all feeling? We got Solo in the building. Shout out to Solo. Thank you for coming through. We got Besco in the building. I would love to say that you were first, Besco, but Solo got here first. She beats you. You got beat by what's the terminology in a race? You got beat by a nose hair. You know what I'm saying? Back to the lab. Back to training. You feel me? How are y'all doing this morning? What's good? Shout out to everybody being here early. Again, this is your official wake up call. Get in here. It's Monday. Come with your pens and pads and your notebooks so you can learn something. You feel me? Go and learn something. Y'all know Monday, we've been vibing on Monday. Monday, I feel like, the last couple of weeks, we'll be on like week 5 now. It ain't been about entertainment. Monday been about straight, let's get to the bag. Let's learn, how do we make money investing? How do we make money in the stock market, right? And we're going to get to that. We're going to get to it, chat. We're going to get to it. But how was y'all weekend? You know what I'm saying? It was the opening weekend for the NFL. So W to that. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to anybody who's a fan of the NFL, anybody who watches American football. Sunday we's back. Shout out to YZ. YZ has entered the chat. Y'all already know the vibes. You know what I'm saying? Your team lost. Hey, my team lost on Thursday. I'm a Cowboys fan. In case y'all didn't know, I root for America's team. America's team, True's team. You know what I'm saying? True is a man of the people. You feel me? But we took an L. YZ, who's your team? Who is your team? The Seahawks. Yeah, Seahawks took an L yesterday. That's your daily ASMR. Seahawks took an L yesterday, as well as I can't help but to every time I see the Seahawks open up a season. Every time I see the Seahawks open up a season. I'm not sure if you do this, YZ, but something I do. Every time the Seahawks open up a season, and they lost to the 49ers, which was a good game. Because I went out and watched the game with a couple of my buddies yesterday, one of which is a 49ers fan. And he called it at the end of the game. He said all they need to do is get a nice little punch the ball out, a fumble recovery real quick. Snap came. Bar went wild. They did it. They secured the W. But it was your own man Your own man knocked the ball out. What a way to go out. But what I was saying is, whenever the Seahawks season start, I can't help but to think how they could be Super Bowl champions for another year had they just ran the ball on the 1 yard line with the man who was trampling the team the entire game. You cannot stop beast mode from the 1 yard line. You cannot. I don't think it's possible. You know what I'm saying? The 1 yard line. Why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? I can't even, like, that's just one of those things, right? Where it's like, you got LeBron on your team, right? But for the game-winning shot, you're going to give it to Tristan Thompson? What? No hate against Tristan Thompson, but if I got Braun on my team, if I got Kobe on my team, if I got Steph Curry on my team, if I got Jordan on my team, the list goes on and on, chat. If I got one of them on my team, they're getting the ball, right? Remember when the Super Freak was in the NFL? That goes beyond some people's time, but when Randy Moss was in the NFL, the Super Freak, when Megatron was in the league, come on. That's like having Kobe on your team. Who you think getting the ball? You feel what I'm saying? Give Beast Mode the ball. That's all we gotta say about that. Could have had two. It's their own fault, right? So shout out to the NFL breaking the season openers this weekend. A lot of teams, listen, chat, when I was at the bar yesterday repping my team, every team, literally, every team in the bar yesterday, all the jerseys I saw, all the teams that were in the bar yesterday took the dub. Chat. Took the dub. And when I mean every team, chat, I'm talking there were Chargers fans in there. There were Steelers fans in there. There were Jaguars fans in there. There were Raiders fans in there. There was a sea of Commanders fans. There were a sea of there was 49ers fans in there. There were Packers fans in there, right? The only ones that didn't take the W was in the evening when the bar took a turn and it went from a sea of Commanders and otherwise fans to a sea, I mean, look like a black wave of Ravens fans. Ravens took that L last night, unfortunately. That was a high-scoring game, chat. That was a high-scoring game. You know what I mean? But shout out to y'all if y'all team did win. Again, I am a Cowboys fan, so we took our early. We took our L early. We started off the week with an L. Started off the season like, hey, we're going to take the first L for you guys, so that way the pressure's off everyone's back. America's team got clapped by the Eagles. Eagles is becoming America's team. So, NFC East, it will be some good competition, but if you ask me, Commanders are looking nice. Am I rooting for them? No. But they don't look bad. So shout out to everybody in the chat. Y'all know the vibes, right? So why are we here? Right? Besides all the enjoyment we had over the weekend watching some football, that means some people's parlays are going to start warming back up, right? Some of those DraftKings and the FanDuels and the stake and all the other gambling and betting softwares. Listen, chat, I'm not sponsored, so take it with a grain of salt. But listen, they're going to start making some money. DraftKings, right? Who is traded on the New York Stock Exchange, chat, if you were wondering. DraftKings under the ticker DKNG, right? DraftKings, right? DKNG, currently trading for $46. $1.88 pre-market. What do you think is happening? Right? Y'all like that transition? Shout out, applaud that transition, chat. We're here talking about investing. And yes, we went from the NFL to the stock market seamlessly, chat. DraftKings. People are going to be putting in parlays, chat. DraftKings. The NFL is back. The NBA be going on. All the other sports are going on. You can bet on all types of sports. I'm not here to advertise betting. I'm here to let you know that if you're thinking of, hey, when is DraftKings going to start making some more money? Right? Right, chat? I told y'all many times, charts go up and down, up and down, up and down, right? Y'all heard me say that before? Well, if you had to assume without looking at any charts or researching any information, chat, when is a time that you think DraftKings would be more or less likely to go up? What would you say, right? If I had to assume, chat, I would assume that DraftKings, as a company on the New York Stock Exchange, is one of those companies that, like, all right, I'm going to assume September-ish time frame is probably when it's going to start to go up, at least a little bit. Because stocks go up and down, chat. Because it's the beginning of the NFL season, right? But if you have the beginning of the NBL, right? National Baseball League, right? NHL, National Hockey League, right? If you have any of these leagues, NBA, WNBA, right? Wrestling, it doesn't matter. Anything you can bet on, if it's the beginning of the season, chat, I'm going to assume that that's when DraftKings is going to have some type of bump up. That's when they're going to start making a little bit of money. You feel that? Shout out to that girl, Beef, in the chat. You feel me? So that leads us into part of our discussion today, because what we're going to go over today, you see the title of the episode. What day is it? Right? Well, it's Monday. Well, it's also September 8th, right? But what day is it? Right? How do we know what day it is? So we're going to look at some calendars today, chat. We're going to look at some calendars. We're going to look at some key dates. We're going to understand of when certain information is released. Bruh. Look, we started from the bottom. Now we're here, chat. Right? We started from the bottom. Now we're here. And we're about to get into it. We're going to get into it today. You feel me? But before we get into the calendars, let's do an article rundown. So if you're new here, if this is your first Monday with us over the last 5 weeks now, if you've been here 5 weeks in a row, you went from not knowing what a stock is to knowing how to buy one, to knowing how to understand a company, to know what a dividend is, to know different types of, you learned a lot of basics. We learned a lot of basics. We learned about market cap. We learned about volume. We learned about different things. And today we're going to learn some more things, right? Because Mondays now, we just like, hey, why not use it to start off the week, keeping our ear to the earth, chat, right? Learning about the economy, figuring out ways we can set ourselves up in the future, right? We want to make some bread. We want to make some money, right? And where are some real money makers at? Oh, they're located on Wall Street in the financial district, investing in the stock market. How do you invest in the stock market? Well, I would say go watch some of those VODs and make sure you continue to tune in. But today, chat, because last episode we talked about market sectors, right? And as a refresher, there's 11 sectors in the market. I showed you guys how you can look up sector information, how you can even use sector information to diversify your portfolio. Nigga, is you diversifying your bonds? Shout out to you if you know where that reference is from. You feel me? Let's get into it, chat. Let's get into it. Let's get our desktop set up. Y'all know the vibes. Let's go ahead and get it set up. And let's look at some information, starting with the article rundown. So, again, we're going to act like some of y'all are new here. We like to go to CNBC in the morning. Why? Because CNBC has these banners that float, right? So they either have like some flashing banner up here or they have a banner here that kind of gives you information, right? So stock futures tick higher to start the week as traders look ahead to key inflation data, right? So they're talking about inflation data, right? They're talking about interest rates. They're talking about the cost of things, right? Are the cost of things going up? Are the cost of things going down? I mean, you look at inflation data without calling it inflation data, right? You go to the grocery store and be like, yo, I just bought these eggs literally last week and they were $5. Now this week they're $6. That's inflationary. That's inflation, chat, right? The cost of goods rising, right? The cost of things rising. We got to keep our eye on the economy so we know what's going on and we know what to look out for. We talked about it before, how inflation, right? And inflation data and things involving inflation or the rise in prices can affect people's habits, right? It could affect how healthy you eat in certain situations because the healthier foods or organic foods may sometimes be pricier than foods with preservatives. You feel me? Are y'all awake yet? We starting off hard and we got Pay in the chat. Shout out to Pay. Let's go. Pay is here to get y'all turned up in the morning, chat. Y'all need to open your ears and listen to this information. We are not playing. We got the Christmas bar at the chart all green. Come on, chat. Let's go. Turn up, chat. Chef into the chat. You already know when Chef into the chat, it's a party. Shout out to Pay. Shout out to Party Animal entering the chat. Y'all already know what vibes we on. We're talking about investing. We started at the bottom. We started at the basics, right? So if you need to go watch the past VODs, they're all on Monday. I try not to talk about anything dealing with investing on other days. So that way, if you need to go back and see the videos, check Mondays. Check the dates. You can find the Monday's date. You can find the video, chat. You feel me? But shout out to y'all. So on our Christmas bar, right? Green, 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 green. What does that mean? That means the Dow, S&P, NASDAQ, oils are all up. U.S. Treasuries down, right? We still haven't even clicked on these to dive deeper because, again, we're starting at a low level and making sure everybody understands what's going on. Right now, it's time for our article rundown. So let's see, right? Again, if you're new here, we like to look at the articles on CNBC. We don't read the articles. We read the titles of the articles and we make assumptions. And a lot of the things that we read in the articles let you know kind of what you can expect for the week or even the future by just reading the titles, right? Taking the number one spot today, stock futures tick higher to start the week as traders look ahead to key inflation data. Chat, we've been on this page for 2 seconds. You're seeing the word inflation twice already. That's why you need to pay attention to the economy. You need to pay attention to what's going on. W Biddies from Pay in the building. Applaud that man. Shout out to the Biddies. It's September. Y'all been going crazy all month. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to be on my cuss and that shit. Listen, chat, if we hit 1 million subs, I'm going to cut my hair. You feel me? If I hit 1 million subs, I feel like Braun should come give me a shape up. Braun, you going to give me a shape up if I hit 1 million subs? Chances of that? Let's see, chat. I do have new commands. If you saw that, let's see. Let's put it in the chat. We're gonna go exclamation point 8 ball. Chances of True hitting 1 million subs this month. Okay. Where's the 8 ball? Is the 8 ball? The 8 ball don't want to work, chat? Is the 8 ball gonna work for us? The 8 ball took a day off. Hold up, chat. Let's reset this. Come on now. Let's take 1 second and we'll get back to the articles. 1 second and we're going to get back to the articles. Cloudbot be on some shit sometimes. Like, you were supposed to give us the prediction just now, Cloudbot. What are you doing? Right? Let's double check. Let's double check. Let's double check, chat. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, okay. Yep. It's not Cloudbot, chat. It's me. I'm on some shit, chat. I'm on shit, chat. Let's try that again. Let's try that again. Here we go. And then we'll get back to the articles. 8Ball. Will True hit 1 million subs this month? I'm going to say not likely. I don't even know who that is. A try hard with you, the force is. Hey, listen. With me, the force is, chat. That is a quote from Yoda. Shout out to Streamlabs. But let's get back into our articles, chat. With me, the force is. Hey, maybe we can hit 1 million subs. I don't know, chat. All right. So inflation data, NVIDIA breakdown. Jobs report failed to slow down this bull market by much. You hear that? The jobs report, just as a header of what the jobs report basically tells us, it gives us information regarding employment and unemployment, right? So it tells us how many jobs have how many people have basically filed for unemployment over the last period, right? So it's a good indicator of how strong the economy is, right? So the more people working, the more people that are going to be spending money, right? Makes sense. The more people spending money, the better the economy is because things get to operating. If you think about a couple of years ago when we were in the middle of a pandemic, why was the economy suffering? Well, everybody was stuck in the house. Nobody was really spending money on certain things, like, for example, going out to eat. You couldn't. You shouldn't have been. Your ass should have been in the house like they told you to be. And if you were in the house, how are you going to spend money at a restaurant, right? The two big things we're watching in the stock market in the week ahead. Again, we're not clicking on articles. We're on CNBC, so if you want to, definitely go there and read the article. Treasury Secretary Bessent warns of massive refunds if the Supreme Court voids Trump tariffs. I don't have an assumption about that one. I don't know how Trump tariffs play into refunds. Private equity giants raid Wall Street as fundraising talent wars heat up. Private equity giants. That might be something to look into, right? Private equity, they talking about some folks with a lot of money. They're raiding Wall Street. What are they raiding for, chat? Fundraising talents wars heat up. Let's make a quick assumption. A fundraising talent war, chat, is if you think of a new company. Let's say I started a new company today. My company is, I don't know, my company, we manufacture new pens or something, right? And not only is the pen good, but the pen can recall the last thing you wrote, right? Up to 5 sentences, right? I just made up a company. It could or could not exist, right? So that's my company. I create AI pens, and as I write, my pen can recognize when I use certain punctuation and it can remember up to 5 sentences. That's my company, right? True just started a business idea. Listen, patent pending. All right, I said patent pending. So if you come up with that idea, I need my cut. I needs mine. All right. So anyway, back to it. Now with my company, because True is just a regular guy with a good idea, I need money. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do a fundraiser. Let's say my company, I believe it's so good, and I need $1 million, right? So some people may go to Shark Tank and pitch their idea. Some people go to private equity giants, right? So people you don't know have a lot of money, or some people you do, or people willing to invest in new companies. So they say, all right, True, tell us your idea. We'll decide if we want to invest in you. So my pen idea that tracks the last 5 sentences, uses AI technology. I'm pitching it. They're like, it's pretty good. What is the talent war? Well, there is, let's say there's Party Animal, right? Chef is right next to me, and Chef is pitching an idea for a new frying pan, right? What's special about the frying pan? Well, this frying pan also uses AI technology, right? The frying pan has little needles in the bottom, and all you have to do is put your meat on there, and there's a digital thermometer on the handle, and you just sit there, you cover it, and you wait, and it tells you when your food is done. No flipping necessary, right? That's chef idea, right? So now they have to determine what makes better sense in this market and what do we want to invest in. So that would be a talent war. My smart pen is competing against a smart frying pan, right? So that's how you can interpret that information. Dan Ives to become chair of company that will buy Sam Altman backed WorldCoin for his treasury. The Sam Altman backed WorldCoin for his treasury. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Sam Altman, I'm not going to make any assumptions. Let's move on. EchoStar sells Spectrum licenses to SpaceX in $17 billion deal to resolve FCC probe. Listen, SpaceX be doing their thug thistle. SpaceX, chat, if you don't know, be out here catching rockets. You know what I'm saying? SpaceX, which is not a government company, it is a private company that does trips to space. They've sent people up to the International Space Station. They've done a lot of things, but they've been out here catching rockets. So EchoStar, which I don't know much about that company, sells Spectrum licenses. I don't know much about the Spectrum licenses to SpaceX in a $17 billion deal. $17 billion. SpaceX paid for something that is going to be beneficial to their company. They're catching rockets that are like the size of a 19-20-story building, chat, at full speed. Listen, I'm going to say SpaceX, if you want to use your $17 billion on Spectrum licenses, you go right ahead and do it. Right? Here are Monday's biggest analyst calls. NVIDIA, Apple, Tesla, Palantir, Oracle, Roblox, Alphabet. Roblox. Listen, chat. I like Roblox. I like all these companies. But shout out to Roblox, right? A lot of people on Twitch play Roblox. So shout out to them. And that's some of Monday's biggest analyst calls, right? This is for, when you see stuff like this is more so for your active traders. When I've been talking about investing, especially when you're newer, you're less of an active trader. And we'll talk about some of the different trading styles in a moment as well. Ask a pro, this is an advertisement. How long does $1.5 million last in retirement? Chad, if you ask me, I'll be upright with y'all. Like my minimum retirement goal is $100,000 a year on the low end, right? So for me, if I can use $100,000 a year and that's it, that's 15 years. I mean, quick math. So depending on how much money you need to survive in retirement. But again, it depends on the lifestyle you want to choose too. Because some people, it's like, well, all I need is 30 racks a year and I'm straight. Serena Williams invests in women's basketball league. Unrivaled, now valued at $340 million. Listen, Serena Williams is in her bag, as well as her husband, been in his bag. Shout out to them. Klarna's IPO will test if it's more than just a one-trick buy now, pay later pony. If you don't know what Klarna is basically, I don't want to give false information, but let's just, for the sake of this title, make assumptions. They're a buy now, pay later service. So it's like many people refer to it as layaway or like a installment plan agreements, right? So like Afterpay, other services, right? I want this product for $100, but instead of me paying you $100, I'll pay you $25 this week and I'll pay you $25 again for the next 3 weeks until I pay it off, right? So that's Klarna. And they're talking about IPOs, which is good too, because we're going to talk about calendars. So shout out, chat. Right? Shout out to that, chat. China shipments to U.S. plunged 33% in August as overall exports growth hits a 6-month low. You can just assume some of the things that China is exporting to the U.S. And I'll tell you, it's a lot. Right? I feel like if you go into a store like Five Below, right? Nothing against Five Below, but a lot of the products in there probably say made in China. Tesla market share in U.S. drops to lowest since 2017 as competition heats up. Competition is always going to heat up, especially when it comes to Tesla, because EVs still do not dominate the market. There's still a lot of market share out there available, and there's a lot of car companies that are getting in their bag with their EVs. So yeah, competition is going to heat up. We haven't even really seen a bunch of like overseas or Japanese EVs really in the US. Not me personally. The US is losing travelers. Here are the countries that stand to benefit. Yeah, because it's expensive, right? This article keeps talking about inflation. Why would I want to travel? Listen, chat. Let's be serious for a moment. If I'm in Paris, right? What makes me go, I want to go to the US? I mean, yeah, the US is a great country, but what is it that people with a slower lifestyle would want to come see here? I mean, I feel like that is kind of the equivalent of people going from the US to a place like Tokyo, where it's like, yo, it's about to be fast over there. It's about to be hella people, all that. So it's expensive though. And if you're used to living on your lower wages, right? If you survive at a higher quality of life for lower, do you want to spend half your yearly salary coming over here just to see the Statue of Liberty? I don't know. But there's plenty of things in the US that I personally haven't seen. So I'm not going to assume everything, but that's what I'm going to assume. AI's impact in the workforce is small, but it's not zero. That's a fact. They got robots flipping burgers. So it ain't small. It definitely ain't small. AppLovin and Robinhood added to S&P 500. Listen, chat. Listen. AppLovin and Robinhood, ticker Hood, added to the S&P. Hey, go read the article. If you like these companies, Robinhood is one of those platforms that, as a newer investor, you could check out. I'm not sponsored, but Robinhood is a good platform, if you ask me. Right? So shout out to that. We're going to keep moving. Senate seeks to rein in stock tokenization in latest crypto bill. Again, more crypto. Crypto is been making waves, right? You get in the crypto market whenever you get in the crypto market. We're not talking about crypto right now. U.S. to target more businesses after Hyundai raid. Trump border SAR says. Hyundai raid? What was the Hyundai raid? That might be an article I need to read. Because the one thing I do know about Hyundai is when you buy a brand new vehicle, their warranty is like 10 years, 100,000 miles. Listen, chat. I know people love their cars. I know they love their G-Wagons and everything else, but 100,000 miles of 10 years, bro. If you looking for a car and not wanting to worry about maintenance, I don't know. You might catch me in a Hyundai before a G-Wagon, chat. NVIDIA gets a price target cut from Citi as competition in AI arena grows. I mean, price targets are always going to go up and down, especially when it comes to juggernauts like NVIDIA. Like at the end of the day, one of the assumptions I'm going to make is, hey, people give price cuts or price target cuts on companies when they want the stock to go down. It could be a strategy for them to buy more. Don't get caught slipping, right? Don't get caught slipping. Don't get caught sleeping. Either one, right? European markets open higher as focus turns on French confidence vote. He's one of us. How Trump is trying to influence New York's mayoral race. Trump is from New York, ain't he? Ain't he, chat? Somebody tell me where Trump is from. Where's Trump from? He's from New York. So, one of us. Hey, shout out to Shaw Love. Trump, one of y'all. He's trying to influence your mayoral race, all right? Gunmen kill 5 at Jerusalem bus stop. We're not going to talk about violence. Trump raised the SALT deduction cap to $40,000. Hear what it means for taxpayers. The SALT deduction cap to $40,000. Hey, I'm just going to keep it real with y'all. None of my deductions are going to reach a $40,000 cap. I'm not there yet, but I will be. As football season kicks off, we just talked about that. Jim Cramer drafts his fantasy stock portfolio. Oh my gosh, chat, you got to read this. So if you don't know about Jim Cramer, Jim Cramer has been around for a long time. And in the, we'll call it the retail world, chat. In the retail world, Jim Cramer is known as one of those guys that whatever he says, the opposite happens. So take that as you wish. Is the Chase Sapphire Reserve actually worth $795 annual fee? Maybe. Depends, right? There's some credit cards out there, chat, and if you read the annual fee on it, it's like, that's worth it. Annual fee $500, but one of the perks is they give you $300 a year in close. Okay. Volkswagen targets dominance in Europe with affordable EV push, right? Well, I do know one of Volkswagen's primary EVs is the i4, which is, if I'm not mistaken, very similar or a lower version of the Audi Q4 electric vehicle. What say you, chat? Am I right? I think I'm right. But that's the article rundown. So basically, the biggest takeaways is, hey, NVIDIA's still doing good, but they also got a price target cut. And also inflation. Something with inflation is happening. And also, where was my notification when I got those biddies from Pay? That just clicked to me. We're going to have to check on that, but not right now. We're going to keep it going, right? So what day is it? What day is it, chat? Let's get back into our desktop mode real quick. We ain't done. We just getting started. Chat. So that was the article rundown. I got a couple of tabs open. All right. So first, before we start talking about what day it is, y'all know I got to run my mouth, right? So I mentioned earlier about investment styles, right? And I mentioned that some of the information in the articles we read are more relevant to people depending on their investment styles. You can see here, it's a lot of investment styles, chat. And just to rattle some of them off, like I'm casting that, rambling off gifted subs, we got value investing, momentum investing, income investing, funds, contrarian investing, bottom line, copy investing. We got growth investing, passive investing, dividend growth, bonds, market capitalization, commodities, diversified investing, active investing, buy and hold, ESG investing, small cap investing. We got stocks, conservative, dollar cost averaging, right? Chat. That's a lot of investment styles. Right? But there's some in particular that I'm going to point out to you, right? There's only a few. I'm not going to go over this whole list. Oh, hell nah. Y'all ever seen that video of when Chris Brown, right? When he was talking to Funny Marco, and Funny Marco was like, would you talk to my sister? She looked just like me, right? And Breezy hit him with that. She looked just like you? Hell no. No. Fuck no. Exactly, chat. That's my same sentiment about, am I going to go over all these with you? No. If y'all want to look it up, all I did was go to Google and type in investing styles, and that's where you can find this information. But the first one I want to go over with you is buy and hold, right? There's going to be a lot of talk about buy and hold. In sum, buy and hold, right? I showed you guys, or at least I talked about how you can acquire a stock or an investment or an equity, right? One of the strategies is buy and hold. That means purchase it and hold on to it. That is the sum of what buy and hold is. Buy and hold investing is a strategy in which an investor buys a stock and holds it for a long period, regardless of market volatility. So I always tell you guys, stock go up, they go down, they go up, they go down, right, chat? So what does that mean? That means doesn't matter what type of inflation data you get, doesn't matter what's happening in the economy, doesn't matter if the stock you bought instantly went down 50%, hold on to it, right? An investment is considered a long-term investment when you hold it for a year and a day. And most people say you should hold things for at least 10 years. That's what Warren Buffett says, right? That's what Warren Buffett says. Hold your stocks for at least 10 years. Shout out to Ice in the building. What's good with you, Ice? How you feeling? How you feeling, Ice? How are you feeling? Right? We're talking about investment styles at the moment, and then we're going to get into some calendars. I'm only going to go through a few of these strategies, right? Because again, we're assuming that everyone is new. We're assuming that we don't know nothing. Y'all know something because I've been talking about this for 5 weeks now, right? So we're right on pace of where we should be. Investment styles, buy and hold. That's the first one. The next, value investing. This style revolves around finding stocks that are undervalued by the market and have the potential to increase in price. If you think about what I just said 2 minutes ago, right? Let's go back to the article real quick, right? We're going to piece stuff together. NVIDIA gets a price target cut from Citi as competition in AI arena grows. Not saying that NVIDIA is undervalued, but when some stocks or equities get price target cuts, the price typically goes down, chat. If you see my screen, look at here. NVIDIA, right? The stock market isn't open yet. It opens at 9:30 Eastern time. Is down $4.64. When banks, Citi or otherwise, give price target cuts, their word means a lot, right? Their word means a lot. And people take that stuff seriously. So if you think of the streaming world, if Kai Cenat came on Mafiathon 3, which he's currently streaming all month long, right? Shout out to Kai Cenat and everybody doing the Mafiathon. If he went on stream and he said something to streamers, they would believe what he said. If he came on and said, listen, chat, applications for Streamer University 2 is now open and Streamer University is going to take place at the beginning of October, you're going to believe him. That is what it's like for people who invest and they see major corporations like Citi give price target cuts. If they were saying before the price target for NVIDIA was 175, and then now they give a price target cut and they say our price target is now 165, as an example, what's going to start happening with NVIDIA is going to start going towards that price because people believe what Citi says, even if they don't do their own research. Even if they don't do their own research, chat, they're going to take it like word is bond, right? So what does that mean for value investing? If you're someone who is going to look for companies that are undervalued, right? There's ways to determine the value of a company. But if you're saying, wait, the value of NVIDIA is $200. So why would they be getting a price target cut? And they're down $4.64. Oh yeah, I'm going to buy that. Because in your head, you're thinking, okay, there's at least $35 worth of value in this stock, right? So for every one share I buy, I'm going to be thinking, even if it's a buy and hold strategy, right? Because you can combine different investing styles, right? I'm value investing, but I'm doing it as a buy and hold strategy. So if I'm buying NVIDIA to hold it long term, I'm going to be thinking at some point, these equities or these shares in NVIDIA that I'm purchasing for $167 are going to be worth $200. So yeah, I'm taking that deal. Another investing style is growth. Growth investing looks at a stock that are they're growing rapidly and have the potential to continue growing at a high rate. So when you think about maybe a newer company, right? Or a company that has a certain niche, and you're like, oh man, that is such a great idea. Of course they're gonna grow, right? When you're thinking about a company, for example, like I don't know, a company that is like OpenAI or that uses Chat GPT, right? You're gonna say, well, that's probably a growth company. Because even though, yeah, a lot of people use it now, do you believe that it has the potential to do much, much more. I mean, that's how some people look at Tesla, because there was arguments even to this day. People still trying to figure out, is Tesla a car company or is Tesla more than that? Right. And those are one of the things that you determine if you're looking at a growth investment style. Right. Think about Robinhood. Right. Could Robinhood be considered a growth stock? Sure. Robinhood started off as an app that only lets you do one thing, and then they're pivoting, meaning now you can open up a bank account with them. What are you going to do if one day you're driving down the road and you see brick and mortar Robinhood, right? Brick and mortar stores are, less likely to happen these days, but it's not impossible, chat. You never know. But growth investing is another investment style. I mentioned briefly active investing. So an active investing style is when investors are motivated primarily by the desire to generate higher returns in the near term, right? And one example of that is day trading. So that's why I mentioned, like, if you're a newer investor, you probably are not active investing, meaning I'm going to buy NVIDIA right now because it's $167. And then if it goes up to $175, I'm going to sell it because I made $8 on that stock. And then I'm going to use that to maybe invest in something else, like a Tesla that's up $12.31, right? So that's a more active investing style. You're actively looking for those gains by saying, okay, this stock is down. I'm going to buy it. When it goes up, I'm going to sell it. Versus, oh, I'm going to buy and hold, right? I want to go over at least two more for you. At least. So passive investing. Passively holding a portfolio of stocks, typically index funds, and not actively buying or selling is called passive investing, right? We talked a little bit about index funds, ETFs, right? Which is like a basket, right? It's an investment that includes multiple investments in there. So you just like, I'm going to buy this and then I'm just going to invest in this and let this basket of things, which has its own sort of diversification within it, kind of lead my portfolio. That's passive. You don't really want to do much. You want to kind of let people who are more intelligent than you in the world of investing kind of lead the charge on that, right? Income investing is all about reaping passive income. Those who follow this style typically invest in dividend-paying stocks, bonds, real estate investments, and otherwise, right? That's when you find an investment that pays you money versus just you profiting off of the capital gains. Meaning if I buy, again, I'm using NVIDIA as an example, I'm not just looking to get money off of NVIDIA going from $167 to $200. I'm also looking to increase my income based on the dividends that NVIDIA is paying out. We talked about dividends a couple of weeks ago, right? So some stocks pay dividends, which is a share of the profits of that company being distributed amongst the shareholders. The shareholders being anyone who owns a piece of NVIDIA, meaning you own a stock, even if that's one share or a fraction of a share. I asked that question before. Can you get paid dividends on fractional shares? The answer is yes. Typically, though, I will say, when it comes to income investing and dividend growth, which is investing also tends to do well in slower growth market, blah, blah, blah. But the investing is to find stocks that offer high dividend yields. When it comes to these investment styles, chat, income investing and dividend growths, it does require a little bit more capital for it to be beneficial. You can start your investing style as income and dividend by only buying one share of something. But just realize if they're paying out a dividend of, let's call it 25 cents per share, you're going to be waiting a long time before you really start seeing some real money, right? If ever, right? Because if they're paying dividends quarterly, you're talking you're going to get $1 a year. Hey, a dollar can go a long way, chat, but that's what I mean. So a lot of people who use these investment styles tend to have higher capital or more money invested. So if I know Nvidia is giving 25 cents a week, instead of me buying one share, I'm gonna buy as many shares as I want because I want all the 25 cents I can get. Because they're gonna pay you based on how many shares you own, right? You feel me? Y'all following me, chat, right? And one last one I'll go over, ESG. Environmental, social, and governance investing is all about choosing investments based on sustainability and commitment to furthering social responsibility, bettering the world, having a less of a carbon footprint, things like that. And some of them would actually show you their ESG score, right? Because when you have some companies, I'll use Tesla as the example for this, right? It's controversial because some people consider it ESG investing, some people don't. Because some people say, well, it's electric cars, right? They're consuming less fuel, which gives off less emissions, right? That's a lower carbon footprint. But then some people on the other side of that argument are going to be like, but what about the factories that they're using to make the vehicles? What about all the things they have to do before that car is in production, right? How much energy are they using? How much this, how much coal, how much whatever are they using to actually produce these vehicles or other things that they produce? So you got to make your own determination when it comes to a lot of stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? We in our bag today, chat. In an absolute bag. First of all, applaud that information. Applaud that information, chat. But we're going to keep it moving because what day is it? We keep asking this question. What day is it? What day is it? Let's go over to our other favorite chat, Yahoo Finance. And y'all should still be able to see my screen. So we're talking about what day is it, chat? First of all, look at this. Inflation reports to deliver a reality check ahead of Fed. We about to get serious. Hold up. Let's lock in. Let's lock in real quick, chat. Hold up. Hold on, chat. Let's lock in. Y'all ready to lock in? Are y'all ready? Because we're about to kick this up to the next level. All the stuff we were talking about is still basic information when it comes to investing. Again, this is all for entertainment. I am not a financial advisor. I have not taken a series exam. I am nobody. I'm just a guy. And I'm just reading information to you for entertainment. And I'm learning with you, right? Chat. Let's learn some more. Let's lock in. All right. Let me take another sip of my coffee and we're going to lock in. We're going to lock in, chat. Because now is when we start to piece this information together. There is a ton of basic information. And if you've been here with us, you at least at this point know how to look up the basic information. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. The chat right there. Put them in the chat. I'll read your question. We could talk about it, but we're about to turn up in 1 minute. Take a sip of coffee. So, why do I keep saying what day is it, right? Because this is the next step in investing. Investing in its most simple form is finding a company you like, buying into that company so you own a part of that company, and going along for the ride. An example I used before is, hey, I like Apple. I have Apple products, right? There's an Apple product there. There's an Apple product there. There's an Apple product there, right? I like Apple. So if I'm going to invest in a company, right, how much information do I need? I'm already buying the company. I'm already spending money on the company. That is enough information for some people. I know the products are good. I know the products work. I'm going to invest in Apple. I'm going to go and buy one share of Apple And my investment style is going to be buy and hold. I'm going to buy it and I'm going to hold it until I don't want to hold it no more. And when is that day going to come, chat? I don't know. It's going to be a long time before today, though, or before tomorrow. What specific day did you start talking about stocks on stream? So if you want to go back and watch the VODs and see when I first started talking about stocks on stream, I'm going to make an assumption, but this is like week 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to say it's somewhere between August 4th and August 11th. But the VODs are still there. Exactly, Solo. Invest in what you buy. That's one strategy. Investing in what you buy. Look around your house. If you buy a lot of a product, you can invest in that product most likely. You just have to figure out who owns that product. What's the company? You know what I'm saying? But now, what day is it, chat? Why do I keep saying what day is it? Let's get into it. Let's get back into that mode, right? What day is it? What day is it, chat? Right? All right, so we're back on one of our favorite websites, which is Yahoo Finance. And I keep saying what day is it because I want to talk about calendars. Briefly talk about event calendars and then talk about economic calendars, right? We're not going to get in extreme detail about it, but I want to bring it to your attention, right? So if we come here on Yahoo Finance homepage, we love Yahoo Finance. Shout out to Yahoo Finance. We're not sponsored. But if we go to research, notice they have earnings calendar, economic calendar. First thing we want to click on is earnings calendar, right? So if you recall, we'll open up a new Yahoo Finance page just so you can see what I'm referring to. If you recall, when we were talking about a company's profile, meaning you type in the name of the company or you type in the ticker, it brings up the company's information, right? And the market bell just opened. It's 9:30, right? If you go to the company's information on this summary page, right, you can see the earnings date. This is the new earnings date because we know NVIDIA had earnings recently, right? Earnings just passed for NVIDIA. So how do we know when other companies are going to have a similar event? One, you could just type it in, right? So if we're talking, okay, when is Apple going to have their earnings? We could do the same thing. We can go to the summary page, right? Earnings date, October 30th. So the day before Halloween, right? But what if we're looking at it a different way, right? What if we're looking at it a different way, chat? Let me find my page. Meaning, instead of trying to figure out, all right, this company has earnings what day? This company has earnings what day? How do we know, okay, what companies have earnings today? What companies have earnings tomorrow? How do we find that information? One of the ways you could do that, again, if we're on Yahoo Finance, we can go to research and we can go to earnings calendar. You can Google earnings calendar and you may find a bunch of different resources that give you the earnings calendar. But we're going to, for the sake of this, use Yahoo. So if we click on research, we click on earnings calendar, it'll bring us to this page. Today, Monday, September 8th, there are 9 earnings. We can actually click on that, right? I just showed, it's going to bring us the same page, but you can click on these and it'll tell you who has earnings, right? Cassie's General Stores, Plant Labs, Mission Produce, Mama's Creations, right? These are some companies you may or may not have heard of that have earnings today. There's 28 earnings calls tomorrow. Who has earnings tomorrow? Oracle. Many of you know about Oracle, right? AeroVironment, Hello Group, GameStop, right? InnovAge, New Fortress. I'm just picking random companies to read out. Shoulder Innovations, right? Skillsoft. Some companies you may or may not have heard of, right? But this is the earnings calendar, chat. If you go here, this is how you can tell who has earnings on what day. Chewy, Manu, right? Oxford Industries, right? Zenvia, Vera Bradley, Optical Cable Corporation. Again, companies you may or may not have heard of. Why is this important? Because earnings dates are considered not only they're extremely important events, but they let you know what has transpired over the last quarter for a company. If you are depending on the investment style you choose, if you're an active investor, this is going to affect you more than a buy and hold investor, right? Because if there's good news in this earning report, there's a good chance the stock may go up. But if there's bad news, the stock may go down. There could be good news, but then bad guidance, right? So they have what they call guidance after they give an earnings report. Earnings report, again, or earnings announcement says, hey, this is how much money we've earned per share over the last quarter, along with other information. Revenue growth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They go over all those details about their financials of their company. Again, companies that are available to be traded are public traded companies, which means they have to give you this information. So they're letting you know how they did. This is for all companies, including NVIDIA and Apple, the examples we were using earlier. They have to come on at a certain time frame, typically quarterly, and be like, hey, this is how we performed over the last month. Because if you're investing your money in us, you have the right to know how the company is doing. Right, chat? So the earnings calendar lets you go to any day you want and see who's going to be reporting earnings, right? We saw that Apple is going to be reporting earnings on October 30th. If we want to know who else is reporting earnings on October 30th, we can go to that date. Look, 300 earnings, chat. 300. Apple, Amazon, Eli Lilly, MasterCard. Dog, October 30th is a juggernaut of a day. Shell, Merck, Uber, Booking Holdings, Chat, Comcast, ConocoPhillips, Altria, Intel. Chat, are y'all seeing this? Roblox. Are y'all seeing this? Northrop Grumman. October 30th is a juggernaut of a day, chat. A juggernaut of a day. What about 9:30, chat? What about 9:30? Look, it's only 7 earnings, right? Nike, Carnival, McCormick, Lamb Weston, Progress Software. What was that? Sorry, chat. I heard something random. You see that? They're required to give you the information on how they perform. But again, guidance information also comes along with that. So for example, if you're sitting there and if you're wondering, yes, you can sit in on an earnings call. You sure can. You can go to the live call. The link to the call for most companies will be posted probably right on their website. And some of them you can just email, you can sign up and they'll send the link directly to your email. You can go on and you can listen to it live. In some situations, you can even ask questions, but that is a certain type of investor that, you have to register in a different way to be able to ask questions sometimes, because these are huge companies. They're just not going to answer every question from every person that owns one share, right? But for example, if Apple says, over the last 90 days, we have done extremely well because we have sold 1 million Apple Watches and 1 million iPhones or whatever, right? That's probably good news for the company. Oh, they're doing well. Or Apple could say, hey, we didn't do shit. You feel me? They could come on the call and say, we didn't do shit. How do you think that's going to affect Apple, chat? How do you think? Shout out to Bree in the building. But again, an earnings announcement is twofold. It's the information about the last quarter as well as guidance, which means They don't want to scare you. They want to give you a realistic picture of what they expect to happen next. So while Apple could say, hey, chat, they could be like, Amazon can come out and say, listen, when it comes to the economy, I'm doing my part. Eli Lilly come through. I'm doing my part. MasterCard, I'm doing my part. Apple, I didn't do shit. Right, chat? But they can say, but hold up. It's September, my nigga. We got a new iPhone dropping. So even though we didn't do nothing the last 90 days, the last quarter, the last 3 months, they're going to be like, chat, listen, don't let that scare you. Don't start selling your stock because we're running it up this quarter. Why? Because we expected to do low sales over the last quarter. Because everyone's saving their money for this new iPhone that's about to drop. We about to bring some new shit to the street, chat. And when I tell you this next quarter, we going to run it up. Listen, we're going to be doing our part. And that's what companies do sometimes, chat. They may not have a good quarter, but they may come through and say, listen. Right? Roblox may come through and say, I know we didn't do that well this last quarter, but listen, let me tell you this new hot shit we dropping. Amazon may come through and say, listen, we didn't do that well last quarter, but hold up. Part of our strategy, part of our company is we own Twitch. We own Twitch. And next quarter, we're going to have some additional revenues from Mafiathon, right? They may say, listen, chat, our boy Kai Cenat is running Mafiathon. He's going to bring in millions of dollars from his nonstop streaming for 30 days. We're going to add that to some of the revenues for AWS, right? We're going to add that to some of the expected sales because we're going into the Christmas season, right? That's what they could be on, chat. So it's important to both look at the earnings, make a smart determination, listen to the questions, listen to what the company's saying, but then also pay attention to guidance. Because it could be the opposite, right? It could absolutely be the opposite. Uber could come through and be like, listen, we murdered it the last quarter. Why? Because the last quarter was the summertime and people was outside. And while people was outside, we was outside with them, waiting for 5 minutes, because after 5 minutes, either your ride gets canceled or you're charged a fee, right? Because we don't play that shit. So Uber say they was outside, we was outside. We ran it up. However, chat, over this next quarter, we just going to keep it a buck with y'all. We may not do that well because we are going into fall and winter and the weather gets a little shaky. And when weather gets a little shaky, we got less drivers on the road because, drivers ain't with it, right? Uber's all over the country, right? Our drivers in New York, they not trying to fool around with that Syracuse or that Buffalo weather, chat. So you can expect in the next quarter, we may not do that well. But we may run it up a little bit because when it comes to New Year's and Christmas and everything, people like to have a little, they have a little drink and they don't want to be driving. So our business going to run up. There's different factors, but those are some of the things that they say in the earnings report. So now there's an earnings calendar. You can go here and you can look for earnings on specific days. You can look up, what's today, right? You can say who's reporting earnings today, or you can simply go to a company summary and find out when their earnings are. See here, they even have the symbol, right? If you can hear that, that's my stomach growling. Not sure if you can hear that, right? So you can choose any of a company that you like and be like, all right, bet, right? So one company, right? Oops, sorry. How do we want to play this? What company do we want to look up? What company do we want to look up? There's so many companies. Let's choose a random company. Let's say Disney. Walt Disney, right? Disney, right? Earnings date, November 12th. You see that, chat? And if we go to the summary page, we'll look. They have an earnings date that passed on August 6th, and then they got another earnings date that they expect to come up November 12th. So if we go to research and we go to the earnings calendar, right? I should be able to go to November 12th, and I should be able to see Disney on that list, chat. And there it is, Walt Disney. And again, just to give you a quick example of what Disney could say, Disney could be like, hey, our last quarter, it wasn't all that, but we about to run it up. Why? Because when it's the summertime, even though we have a huge crowd at Disney, most people like to visit Disney when the months in their state start to get colder. So if somebody's from New York, they may like to come visit Disney World in the winter because it gives them a chance to get out of their New York winter and into some of that Florida heat. You feel what I'm saying, chat? So they say even though the sales was a little iffy the last quarter, the next quarter we're going to run it up because we're located in an environment that's warm and people are able to use that as a travel destination. You feel me? Zerk in the building. What we talking about, chat? You feel me? So these are earnings announcements, and this is the earnings calendar. But also, if you're on Yahoo, you can click on all events, and those events include stock splits, IPOs, right? Initial public offerings. So remember I was telling you about my business idea that I came up in 5 seconds, right? I came up with that business idea in 5 seconds, right? Yeah, I know True just created a company today at 9 a.m. in which I create pens that use AI technology. And it recognizes your writing style and it recognizes when you use punctuation. And that pen is able to hold up to 5 sentences. It can remember the 5 sentences for you, right? That's my idea. So if, as we saw earlier when we were looking at articles, right? One of the articles that they were talking about was the competition. Let's see if we can find it again real quick. Let's see if we can find the article. I'll probably scroll right past it. But we want to make this point. We want to make this point, chat. We want to make this point. I think it was near the bottom, wasn't it? My eyes don't see it. Anyway, the point is, the article was saying about the competition in private equity, in the private equity market, right? And those who are basically doing fundraisers. So if I'm a new company and I'm trying to have an initial public offering, meaning I'm trying to go public with my company, get it listed on a stock exchange, I need money. So beyond me going to Shark Tank and beyond me looking for a private equity investor, whatever, right? I can do an initial public offering. I'm going to come out on the stock market one of these days and be like, listen, chat, that pen I was telling you about, you can now invest in our company directly, right? And we're going to start our initial public offering off at $25. So it's going to be $25 a share, right? And if people like the company, a lot of times what will happen for the initial public offering is it's going to run up. It's going to run up, chat. It's going to run up because people will be like, it's a new company. It's exciting, right? So you see Monday, there's 6 IPOs. Pyrofight, SCM Trust, right? These are all expected. So when these come out, they're probably going to run up. That typically happens, right? See, it's not trading just yet, but when it starts trading, it typically runs up because people who know about the company, who's well-versed in what the company does, have been waiting in anticipation for the company to go public. And once it does, they're like, all right, bet. Now's our chance to get in on the ground level with this company, right? But all events, so stock splits, stock split for different reasons. Definitely we can touch on that at a later date. But these are some of the things, and this is what you can find out of the calendar, right? These are all events. But also we talked about economic calendar. So let's get into it. Here's the economics on Yahoo Finance. I'm about to put you on game real quick. Yahoo has a lot of economic events that show up on the calendars. I'm going to post a different site that I personally like to use, and that site is Market Watch. Marketwatch.com, chat. Of course, you can use Yahoo. Of course, you can use any other resources. I like to use MarketWatch, and I'm going to show you why I like to use MarketWatch. Because sometimes simplicity is better for me. Maybe not for you, but for me, chat. So if I go over here to the left-hand side and I go to economy, I can see U.S. economic calendar. Boom. I'm going to take this. I'm going to post it in the chat, and I'm going to pin it. I'm going to pin that to the chat. That is the U.S. economic calendar, chat. Right? That's the U.S. economic calendar. Right? So first, what is the U.S. economic calendar? Let's look it up. I can't spell. What is it? The U.S. economic calendar is a schedule of upcoming economic events and data releases, such as inflation reports. Y'all remember on CNBC, they was pushing inflation in our face several times, right? They mentioned it here, inflation data. They mentioned it here, inflation data, right? Inflation reports, employment numbers, and interest rate decisions that are expected to impact financial markets. It is a tool used by investors, traders, and analysts to track important economic indicators that influence economic activity and market prices, helping them to anticipate potential volatility and plan their strategies. Economic events are important because of the volatility associated with it, chat. These events are events that will typically move markets in one direction or another, right? So if you are one of those people and you don't want to start off your investment journey at purchasing at one price and then it instantly goes down, maybe you want to know what is happening in terms of the economic events, right? So some of the key components to those economic events is government reports, such as producer price index, PPI, consumer price index, right, CPI for inflation, the employment situation for the jobs market, and the trade balance, right? Let's see what kind of links they bring up. You also have Federal Reserve actions, details on interest rate decisions and other policy announcements, surveys and indice indicators like the Empire State Manufacturing Index and the ISM Non-Manufacturing Index, right? The impact on markets. The data release can significantly affect the price of assets, including the US dollar, stocks, and bonds, right? I always say y'all got to keep your ear to the earth. You got to know what's going on. You got to know what's going on around you, because this is going to affect how much it's costing you to live your life, right? Step back in the chat. You feel me? How you feeling, Step Back? Shout out to you. Shout out to Zerk in the building. That's a tray ball, right? So forecasting the actuals, calendars often include market consensus forecasts, right? From economies before they release the actual figures and after their release, allowing for comparison and analysis. Let's talk about how it's used, and then we'll get into how you can see the dates. So how it's used for market analysis. Understanding the potential impact of economic data helps in analyzing current market trends and making informed decisions, right? Trade planning. Traders use the calendar to anticipate periods of high volatility and to time their entry and exits into trades. So if you're a more active trader, how do you know when to enter a trade and when to exit a trade? This is some of the information that helps you with that, right? I told you we're going to get a little bit more advanced. But if you're not just a passive investor, you're not just buying a stock and buying it and holding it for 10 years, you're actually one of those people that looks at your portfolios. How do you know, or what is one indicator or thing that you could use to determine when you should enter a trade or when you should exit a trade? You can use economic data. You can use the economic calendar. You can use it for risk management. By staying informed about economic releases, investors can better manage risk associated with market fluctuations, right? If they come in and they say, hey, interest rates are going to go up, what do you think is about to happen? If you have debt, you're going to be paying more for that debt, right? You ever heard the term variable interest rate? Well, that means that your interest rate can change if interest rates change, right? If the interest rates that come out from the Fed change, whether it goes up or down, that can affect your variable rate. Whether that variable rate be on a personal loan, whether it be on a credit card, whether it be on a house or a car, if you have a variable rate, it can change. That's the difference between a variable rate and a fixed rate, right? And here are some of the places of where you can find the economic calendars, right? TradingView, Investopedia, FX Street, CME Group, Federal Reserve Bank of New York, Market Watch. That's what we're using, chat. That's the link that's posted. So this week's major U.S. economic reports and Fed speakers. Here is the biggest comparison. Let's pop them out. Let's pop them out, chat. Let's pop them out. Right? Let's pop them out. Hold on. Where's our other one? Don't be shy. Where'd you go? We'll bring it up here. We're going to pop these out, chat. So that way you can just get a side by side. Again, there's a lot of events that show up on Yahoo, but let me show you why I use Market Watch. Because sometimes not overcomplicating things is the way to go, right? I'm going to just be real with you. I don't understand every one of these economic events. Look how many events are taking place. It's a lot of events. Give me just the simple stuff I can understand. And I'm sure you can filter this down, etc. I'm just using it as an example. So hold your horses. But on Market Watch, look, Monday, September 3rd. What do I really need to know? Consumer credit. Okay. The median forecast, 15 billion. The previous, 7.4 billion, right? Tuesday, NFIB optimism. Wednesday, PPI, right? Producer price index, core PPI, PPI year over year, right? Wholesale inventories. Thursday, which is also 9/11, right? That's a day of remembrance, right? CPI, initial jobless claims, right? Monthly U.S. federal budget. Friday, consumer sentiment, right? What's happening next week? So it's very simple. Fed Chair Powell press conference, 2:30. You need to know when Fed Chair Powell speaks? Wednesday, September 17th, 2:30. Right, chat? This is why I use Market Watch, because give me the simple information that I need right now. If I want to know more in details, I may go to Yahoo Finance. But that's why I say, what day is it? That's why we titled this, right? That's why we titled it this way, right, chat? Shout out to Crest in the building. So, Berserk. So basically what we're going over now, and that's the title of the stream, is what day is it? We're talking about how to recognize or how to locate certain days within that influence the stock market. So we looked at the earnings calendar and the other events calendar, such as IPOs, stock splits. So we're trying to figure out, how do you know when these things occur, right? So what we're actually looking at on the screen at the moment is the U.S. economic calendar, right? So these are economic reports and Fed speakers, because when these things happen, when these reports come out, when Fed speakers speak, they influence markets. So what that means, right? Let me go back to this real quick. What that means is, let's go to Yahoo Finance. And because we've been using NVIDIA as our example, we'll use NVIDIA. So if NVIDIA as a stock goes up and down, up and down, up and down, right? There are things that influence the stock market, making equities go up or making equities go down, right? So some of those things are economic events. So, for example, inflation data. If they come out and say, again, take this with a grain of salt because we're just using examples and making assumptions. If on the economic calendar, they say, hey, we're going to release inflation data, right? So if they're going to release inflation data and you see that interest rates go up, right? You can make an assumption that a company like Wells Fargo or Bank of America or something may go down. May. It's not guaranteed. May go down. Why would higher interest rates make a bank go down? Because if the interest rates are higher, consumers are less likely to borrow, right? That's how banks get a lot of their revenue, off of the interest from loans. But people are more likely to borrow money if the interest rates are lower, right? If you're in the market for a car, who are you going to buy a car from? The dealer that's trying to give you a 10% interest rate or the dealer that's going to give you a 2% interest rate? I want to pay $20,000 for a car. Okay, car's $20,000 at dealership A. The car is $20,000 at dealership B. Dealership A is telling you interest rate on that loan, because you're not paying cash for it, is going to be 10%, right? Which effectively is going to determine how much you pay. How much you pay over the life of the loan, how much you're paying monthly for your car note. While dealership B is saying, yeah, 2% interest rate. You're going to go with B. So it's the same thing. When interest rates go up, banks aren't going to be lending as much just because consumers are less likely to go apply for those loans. How does that relate to what we're talking about? Well, we're telling you, or we're going over how to identify when those events take place, right? And we're looking at the differences. So you can find economic events on Yahoo Finance. But as you can see on Yahoo Finance, look at September 8th. You see all these events, copper exports, trade balances, Sentex, unemployment rates, foreign trade balance. It's a lot. And this may get overwhelming and confusing for some people. So Market Watch may be a better option because look at September 8th, consumer credit, right? 3 p.m., they're going to give you information about consumer credit, right? Look at all these events on here. Let's go to 3 p.m. Let's see if we can find it on here. It's just a lot of events. That's all. That's just the difference. It's just a lot of events. Like I said, you can filter down some of those events, but it's for your newer investor, someone who's not well versed in all the things, looking at Market Watch with a simpler eye may be a little better. Because it's going to tell you, here are the events this week, here are the events next week. You feel me? And as a new investor, these are going to cut straight to the chase because these are the things that you want to look out for if you're an active investor. Again, if you're a buy and hold investor, it don't really matter. Economic events don't really matter that much if you're a buy and hold investor. Why? Because you're just going to keep buying and holding. It doesn't matter. That's the strategy. That's the investment strategy. The strategy is just no matter what's happening in the economy, with the company, you buy and hold. You continue to do that, right? And we looked at some investment strategies. Oops, sorry, chat. So that's the economic calendar, right? And if you just trust me, look at the market at these times when the market is open, right? On Wednesday, chat, look at the market pre-market at 8:30. Watch what happens. Look at the market on September 11th at 8:30. Watch what happens. When this information is released to the public, chat, watch what happens to the market. Watch how it moves in one way or another. Right? So that's how you look up some economic events. Again, there's different resources you can use to find economic events. You can even get deeper into the economy on Market Watch or Yahoo Finance or whatever you decide to use. But those are two calendars that are beneficial for you to use. Again, Yahoo Finance is really good because you can see all different types of events: earnings events, stock splits, IPOs, and economic events. But specifically, if you only want economic events, my recommendation, again, I'm not sponsored, is going to be Market Watch. This information is going to be a lot simpler and a lot easier for you to read. Right? Shout out to Shaw in the building. Shout out to Mentality World Gaming who entered the chat and is a first time chatter. Do you swing trade or you long-term hold? You don't have to answer if you don't want to. I missed that question. But if you're asking me, I do everything. But for the purposes of these broadcasts, I'm assuming I don't do nothing. I'm just assuming I'm learning from the bottom with everyone else. So we're just going from the bottom. We've been doing this for about 5 weeks now. We started off at the very beginning of like, what is a stock? Right? And we're working our way up to more advanced things. So today we talked about some different investment styles. And now we're talking about calendars. But I do everything. I swing trade, I long-term hold, I do derivative markets, I trade options, I do all of it. And shout out to Mentality World Gaming who does both as well. And for Mentality, if this is your first time here, I'm not sure. Let me go full screen for you real quick. You know what I'm saying? Just to let you feel the vibe, you feel me? I'm True Key Man. Everyone calls me True. I'm a variety streamer. I stream everything. I do Lego, I play games, I go IRL, I just chat a lot. But one of the things we've been getting into on Mondays is talking about investing so that way folks can start getting their paper up. You feel me? Right? If you want to catch me, I'm normally on in the morning, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then also in the evening on Monday and Wednesdays. Right? Typically early. Right? It was 7:30-ish. Now it's more 8:30-ish because I am a father. I have children and I got to take them to school. And then in the evening, because I'm a father, I got to put my kids to bed. You feel me? And then on the weekend, because I got to spend time with my family. So I don't be streaming. On the weekend, you will catch me lurking though. If I'm just chilling, lounging around the house, whatever, I'll still be on Twitch. I'll come to your channel if you're a streamer, come support you as well. But that's the vibe that I be on. So shout out to you for coming. Shout out to everybody in the building. Applaud this man. But yeah. So on this journey, I'm going from zero to hero. I've been on Twitch for about 100 days now, chat. About 100 days. I got to see when the exact 100 day is. Hold up. Let me check real quick. Because if it's today, hold up. How many days ago? It keeps coming up. Oh, shit, I missed it. It's 105 days. I've been on Twitch 105 days, chat. Shout out to that. But yeah, come through because I just be doing all the things. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to everybody in the building. You feel me? And feel free to ask questions. Hopefully I don't miss it like I missed Zerk question. So shout out to Mentality World Gaming for helping us catch that. But, you know. We started from the bottom. If you don't know anything about investing, I encourage you go watch the last couple VODs. They're all on Monday, right? They're all on Monday, and I think it was the first one we did. I think may have been August 4th. It was on a Monday, so look at your calendar in your phone and see what Monday was. It was either August 4th, August 11th, or it could have even been July 28th, but it was on a Monday. Right? And also here's an Easter egg, right? Because all of my live broadcasts have intros. If you want to know or be able to identify the difference, I'm going to put you on right now. Listen closely. If you want to identify the difference between one of my morning streams versus my evening streams, because if you're just looking at me, there's no way to tell. Right now, I have no windows. You cannot tell if it's bright as hell outside, if it's storming, raining, or if it's pitch black. You don't know. The way to tell, chat, of if it's a daytime stream or a night stream for me is when the stream first start, you either hear this sound or chat, you hear this sound. Applaud this man. That's a little Easter egg. For those of you, some of you probably never seen my intro. That's perfectly fine. Some of you see it all the time, like Solo, who's always in the building. So shout out to Solo again. And we got Advil, so I ain't gonna go over anything too important. I'm new, so I don't want to leave out my viewers just yet. Sub up. It's September. Sub up, right? Gift some sub. Somebody gift this man a sub, right? But that's how you identify, chat. That's how you identify the difference between, oh, you're missing the Easter egg news? Tell us when the ad is over. I'll tell you again. But shout out to everybody who's new in the building. But true, another thing about me, like I said, I consider myself a jack of all trades, right? That means I know a little bit about a lot of subjects, right? Jack of all trades, master of none, right? Do I consider myself a master at any one thing? Not really. Am I talented in a lot of different things? I believe so. I have a lot of knowledge of just random stuff. And one of those things is investing. So I'm putting folks on. Again, if you're a new investor, start from the beginning. Start from the beginning, my G. Get on that computer and be like, where's True's old broadcast? Yiddy. So hopefully Step Back is back, right? Again, that Easter egg news is if you want to know the difference between a day stream and a night stream, and I promise you, you cannot tell the difference. Because first of all, I always wear the same thing. So that's 2 Easter eggs for you. That's 2 Easter eggs for y'all today, chat. I always wear the same thing because I'm not sponsored, right? We're going from zero to hero, somebody that no one knows to someone that everybody knows. And how are we doing that? By doing calculated steps, by not gatekeeping, and we're bringing quality to the stream. Clip that. You feel me, chat? You know what I'm saying? W, because how I do it, I don't know how to explain. Shout out. What type of, tell us what type of strategies you do, right? You don't have to give us the details on how you do the strategy. Just tell us what you do. Like, do you do options trading? Do you do futures? And then at some point I'll touch on it. Because I feel like I can explain most. I'm a little shaky when it comes to futures and stuff like that. I'm going to just be real with you. Right? But definitely bringing you quality content. And again, one more time, that Easter egg is if you need to know the difference between a day stream and a night stream when you're coming to see True, is this sound here. If it's a day stream, because I'm streaming before most people wake up. I'm East Coast, baby. I'm East Coast. I'm up early. And if it's a night stream, right, that's the sound of a rooster waking you up, or that's a sound of yawn because most people are going to sleep. So that is the Easter egg. All right. So let's get back to it. Right. We had enough fun. Let's get back to it. It's one last thing I want to cover for today. And we rocking and rolling, chat. We are rocking and rolling. Pay attention. Because all this stuff I'm giving you blends together. We talked about investing styles. We talked about economic calendars. We talked about earnings calendars. We talked about the data that comes out in the economic calendars. And then now I've even told you, looking at the economic calendar, when Federal Chair Powell, Jerome Powell, even when he speaks. So the next thing I want to go over with you, chat, and for you more advanced investors, CRESS, mentality, right? Berserk, listen, pay attention, because this may be information you may or may not be aware of, right? So let's get to it. Shout out to Stormy who entered the chat. Yeah, I know it's a party now. Hey, welcome. And you know it's Monday, Stormy, so you know we're trying to, we're getting our brains ready for the week. We're educating ourselves. And again, you can actually find the economic calendar on CNBC as well. So just so you know, chat, you can find economic calendars all over the place. So what's the next thing I want to talk about with you guys? I want to talk about the beige book. The beige book. Some people may have been investing their whole life and like, the fuck is he talking about, a beige book? You know what I'm saying? You already know, if you're in the morning chat, and I'm going to give you another Easter egg. This is how we're going to wake you up. Oh, wake your ass up. Listen, the beige book. What is the beige book, chat? Right? The Beige Book is a publication by the U.S. Federal Reserve that provides a summary of current economic conditions across the country's 12 Federal Reserve districts, gathered from business contacts and other sources. More formally known as the Summary of Commentary on Current Economic Conditions by Federal Reserve District, it serves as a qualitative, on-the-ground report used to complement quantitative data in monetary policy decisions and identify emerging economic trends. The report is published 8 times a year and covers topics like employment, wages, prices, and activities in various sectors. Again, what is it? A report providing qualitative information on economic conditions. We're talking about the Beige Book, chat. The Beige Book. Write it down. Because if you're going on this journey with us for the long term, of the Beige Book going to be, put that in your book bag, chat. It's formally called the Summary of Commentary on Current Economic Conditions by Federal Reserve District. It's nicknamed the Beige Book due to the color of its cover. So if you're wondering why they call it the Beige Book, it's because it's beige, right? How information is collected. Each of the 12 Federal Reserve banks gather information within its district. Sources include direct contacts with businesses, community organizations, and other market experts. The purpose, and then I'm going to summarize this for you, to provide a detailed regional perspective of economic developments, to identify emerging economic trends that may not be immediately apparent in qualitative data, to supplement the quantitative data and analysis used by the Federal Reserve for monetary policy decisions, to help assess the national economic outlook by comparing conditions across different parts of the countries. Right? Key characteristics. The frequency is published 8 times a year. The content, detailed changes in economic activity since the previous report, and covers sectors like manufacturing, labor, prices, and real estate. Publicity, right? The report was first made public in 1983, is now available to the public, serving as a window into regional economic conditions. Chat, I'm about to play a short video for you, and then we're going to summarize, right? We're going to summarize this because the Beige Book is important, especially if you're one of those people who, listen, here's the summary. A summary and analysis of economic activity and conditions prepared with the aid of reports from district Federal Reserve banks and issued by the Central Bank of the Federal Reserve for its policymakers before a Federal Open Market Committee meeting. If you're one of those people who isn't just buy and hold, you're an active trader or active investor, you do some of these strategies that Berserk listed, right? You do some long-term holding, some swing trading, some scalping. These are all new terms to many of you. Listen, you need to be aware of what's going on with the economy because it does affect, it affects the economy, which affects the equities or the stocks that you plan on investing in, right? So here's federalreserve.gov, right? And here is a short video about the Beige Book. right? Let's tune in, chat.
Times a year, the Federal Reserve releases the Beige Book, a collection of reports from the Federal Reserve districts that provide a snapshot of the American economy at a particular time. Each report is based on qualitative information gathered directly from business and community leaders from the various industries within that district's region.
The 12 reserve banks have really the best network of anyone. That in all their districts, they're talking to, not just the business community, but the educational, medical, nonprofit community. They have arms into all of that. And so when they come back, that's what goes into the Beige Book.
The Beige Book gives an opportunity for ourselves, but also the public, to keep a close eye on the economy from the ground up. You have a quick insight on what it is that business leaders and community leaders are talking about, discussing, facing, what constraints they have, what sort of prospects they see.
Each reserve bank collects their information a little bit differently, but we all hear directly from business leaders and community leaders across our districts, and we do that through phone calls, through electronic surveys, we host roundtables. The numbers don't always tell the full story, and so maybe something really interesting comes up in some of the data, but we don't understand the reasoning behind it. Right. And so, we see wage growth. Well, what's going on? Why are companies having trouble finding the workers that they need? Why are workers able to demand those higher wages? These are the types of things that the Beige Book helps us really better understand what's going on, and then why we're seeing some of the data that's coming through.
In addition to providing insight into the economic health of regional economies by collecting first-hand stories behind the data, the Beige Book offers a timely view of the economy as a whole.
Data releases that we receive on the economy are often backward-looking, and they arrive with a delay. So when we reach out to our contacts, we have the opportunity to identify any emerging trends ahead of that data release.
It's very timely, and it covers what businesses and community leaders are experiencing in terms of economic activity and shifts and changes and challenges, but really focusing on how things are different from just 6 or 8 weeks ago.
All the reports are compiled into one publication and are released 2 weeks before every Federal Open Market Committee meeting. The first several pages include a national summary written by one of the reserve banks.
Each of the reserve banks takes a turn writing the national summary, and each bank writes its own district level summaries. And they do a wonderful job of synthesizing all of those anecdotes into sort of a coherent narrative, and a coherent explanation of what's going on in their districts.
One of the unique sources of value that the Beige Book brings is identifying variation across regions in our country. So really, while the Beige Book is intended to find commonalities across regions, and we like to focus on those commonalities to get a bigger picture of the economy, it's just as important that we highlight that heterogeneity across regions as well, because that's going to give us a richer picture of economic activity in the U.S.
Right.
The members of the FOMC, the bank presidents and governors, read the Beige Book and comment on what they've read in the Beige Book. Fed watchers and the members of the press also pay attention to the Beige Book. And more widely, the Beige Book helps provide anecdotes and color behind the actual economic statistics to help the American people have a better understanding of what's going on in the economy.
Chat. Put some W's in the chat. Until just now, a lot of people didn't know that video existed. Put some W's in the chat. Because this is important information, right? The Beige Book, chat. This is important information. To summarize in basically layman's terms, what they're telling us is they go to the ground level, right? When you're in the stock market and you're looking up equities and you're looking at how the stock market is doing. Let's go back to CNBC really quick. Let's put it all together. Trust me, I'm going to make my point. When you're looking at our Christmas bar, down for the Dow, up for the S&P, up for the NASDAQ, right? This is high level information, right? When you go to your economic calendar, right, and you see inflation or CPI information, increase, decrease, jobless claims, sure, you can see how many people are filing for unemployment, right? But why is that? Why did jobless claims go up? Right? Why are there 3,000 more people applying for unemployment this period than it was last period? That's the type of information you get from the Beige Book, right? They tell you because there's the different federal districts, right? There are the different districts. Here's a Beige Book, right? PDF should work. Let's post it in the chat, right? Let's pin it to the chat, right? You feel me? They're different Federal Reserve banks, right? Peep game, chat, right? Peep game, right? Here are the Federal Reserve districts, right? Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Richmond, Atlanta, Chicago, St. Louis, Minneapolis, Kansas City, Dallas, San Francisco, right? Why is this important? They're giving you information on the ground level. The information given to you from New York is not going to be the same information given to you from Cleveland. It's not going to be the same information given to you from Atlanta. It's not going to be the same information given to you from Minneapolis or Kansas City. Right, chat? So some of the information that you're going to see in this, again, it's ground level, which means they're going to go and they're going to talk to the people that are included in the district. For example, if you're in New York, let's use a scenario. You're in New York and you go out to eat. And now your favorite meal, which is steak and potatoes, right? Shout out to City Rat for joining the chat. If your meal is steak and potatoes and you paid $20 last week for steak and potatoes, but now you're paying $21, right? Why is my food more expensive? Well, if it ain't the price of the steak, it could be the price of potatoes. But why would the price of potatoes go up? Well, Beige Book could tell you, hey, in one of our districts, right, we went to Idaho, we checked out the spuds, and one of the farms, thank you, one of the farms had a little fire, right? One of the farms, right, is going through a drought, which means the potatoes that are produced are now going to cost more. i.e., those potatoes we have now shipped over to New York for your steak and potato meal is going to cost you more. That's just an example, but that's what it means when they say they go down to the ground level, right? Why is the cost of housing going down? Well, they gather information from all these districts and they may find a commonality in all these districts that, you know what, people are just not buying houses, right? So you see in this section here, it says highlights by federal district. We got Shaw in the building. Let's look at New York district. Economic activity in the second district increased slightly during the reporting period. Employment in the region grew slightly. Consumer spending increased moderately with stronger than expected holiday retail sales, right? Commercial real estate markets improved slightly with growth in demand in New York City office markets. Selling prices continued to rise at a modest pace, although manufacturers reported that prices largely held steady. Chat. I posted the Beige Book, but I think I gave you one from January. My bad. I should have went to September. Let's change the one. I gave you guys the old one. I was just trying to make a point, but let's at least put the current one up there, chat. There you go. Let's put the current one up there. Right? We know this is published 8 times a year, right? That was from New York in January. Let's read New York again. Let's read the current one to see what they're saying, right? Economic activity declined slightly as tariff-related uncertainty continued to weigh on businesses. Employment in the region was mostly unchanged and wage growth remained modest. Selling prices rose at a moderate pace. We all know they selling umbrellas for $20 out there, marking some acceleration since the previous reporting period, and input prices rose strongly, right? So sometimes you can see commonalities in these different districts, right? So they're telling you this information. And then as you go through the Beige Book, which is a 56-page PDF for August, right? They give you different information and they tell you how it's used. And you can look at this and determine how you want to approach investing, right? Because this is going to affect prices and things like that, right? Look at some of the categories. Summary of economic activity, labor markets, prices, manufacturing, retail sales, non-financial services, construction and real estate. So they take these districts that are all over the US, they get the information from ground level and they consolidate it into one report to determine, okay, here's what the financial picture is. Here's what the economic picture is. You feel me, chat? City Rat says, sounds like furloughed people were let go. Well, it depends, right? Because if we're talking about furloughs, then one of the things we have to keep in mind is what we call a continuing resolution, right? So this is, off the subject of investing, but it still is related to economy and economic data, right? So what is a continuing resolution, chat? A continuing resolution, right? We just want the definition. A continuing appropriations act is commonly referred to as a continuing resolution. Let's bring it up. We don't need to read all of it. We just want give us the AI definition. Give us we want the short summary. There we go. A continuing resolution is a temporary short-term spending bill passed by Congress to keep the federal government operating and funded after the end of the fiscal year when the regular annual appropriations bills have not been completed. CRs, as they refer to it, act as a stopgap measures to avoid a government shutdown, allowing lawmakers more time to negotiate and pass the full year funding legislation needed for government agencies to function. Right? I said it earlier. I have a little bit of information about a lot of things. Why does a continuing resolution tie into what City Rat mentioned about furloughed people? Well, furloughs typically happen after the fiscal year has ended. The fiscal year cycle typically runs from October 1st through September 30th. And a person would be furloughed if a spending bill is not passed by the beginning of the fiscal year. That is typically when furloughs happen, right? So continuing resolution is, again, a short-term spending bill. They could be 15 days, 30 days, 60 days. It's whatever they decide it's going to be until they can basically giving themselves more time to determine what they're going to do, right? But if time lapses and they don't provide a continuing resolution, a short-term spending bill, chat, people will get furloughed. If a continuing resolution or a bill is not passed on October 1st, people begin to get furloughed, chat. So while City Rat's comment does have some merit, right? You're going to see more of that typically in the October timeframe, if there's not a continuing resolution or a spending bill passed, chat, right? So temporary funding, it averts shutdowns. They give you funding at prior year levels, etc., etc., etc. All this information ties in, chat. It all ties together. So W to City Rat for that comment, chat. W for everybody who's in the building, right? But we went over a lot of information today. So what day is it? You feel me? If you want to know what day it is, check your local economic calendar, chat. Right? Because to answer that question, today is consumer credit. Right? W's in the chat. W's in the fucking chat. Come on now. I know. When I first defined a stock for you, you had no idea that in just a couple of weeks, you would know how to start understanding the economy, right? Why were your eggs $5 last month and now they're $6? Pay attention to what's going on. Pay attention to the inflation data. Pay attention to CPI. Pay attention to PPI. Pay attention to when Federal Reserve Powell, the Federal Chairman Powell speaks, chat. The information is available to you. You just got to know where to find it. The Beige Book is a great resource, chat. Because some of you live right in those Federal Reserve Bank districts. Some of you live right in those 12 districts. You want to know what's going on with why things are happening? Listen, if you read some of this, they'll tell you how some of the information is collected, right? They'll tell you some of the people they talk to, because again, in that video, they tell you all that information. They say, hey, this is some of the people we talk to. Here's some of the organizations we work with, right? And it could be places you frequent, right? It could be your local bagel shop that they're going to talk to figure out why the prices of bagels are so high. And that person at that shop say, hey, bagels are high because of XYZ. The cost of yeast has went up. The cost of this has went up. Chat, all this information ties together. If you know where to find it, listen, you know what to look for, right? It's all going to tie together. And all that is going to tie into whatever type of investment style you want to have. It's going to tie into you knowing what stock you want to pick. If you want to be an active investor, you want to be a growth investor, you're going to start understanding things, right? You're going to understand why they talk about AI so much, right? If you're out here streaming, again, we said this plenty of times, look at your computer. Your computer probably got a sticker on it. And that sticker probably says NVIDIA. It probably says AMD. It might say Intel. You're looking for a place to start investing? How about starting where you already started? Right? Start where you already started. W's in the chat for that. But I talked y'all heads off enough. Y'all know your boy True be in his absolute bag. Take the information here you learned today. Rewatch the video. It's September. Make sure you sub up. We don't want you to have to watch no ads. Give all the biddies. Tune in. Watch your favorite streamer. Support them. Tune in for Mafiathon. You feel me? But don't miss Mondays. Because Mondays, I'm getting you set up for the week. I'm getting you set up for the week. And don't worry, I ain't forget about you guys. Keep on stacking your bread because we're going to buy a stock live. I ain't forget about you. Make sure you got your, start saving, get your 200, 300, whatever you can get. We're going to buy something. Appreciate you, Stormy, for that compliment. Shout out to y'all. And with that, I just ask one last favor. One last little favor, right? Which is stick around for the raid so we can go support somebody else in our community. You feel me? W's to all of y'all, right? You saw the quote. That quote was given to us by ICE. W community, W stream, W everyone, W planet. To an extent. Let's raid out. Let's go. Yeah, start off with $50. That's what I'm saying. Just start putting. Just get the account open so you get familiar with the account. That's the biggest part of it. That's it. But I'm postponing it to give folks time to get that going. All right, we're gonna raid. That girl B is streaming. We're going straight to her channel. Stop playing around. Let's go. Let's go. We're gonna support that girl B. She is up and streaming, chat. Y'all go wild. We gotta support her. Let's go. When that beat drop though. Let's go. Y'all give it up for that girl B. Turn up as soon as you get in that track. Put them raid trains, put some emotes, get her turned up. Let's go.
Oh, I got rated? Oh, snap. They rated me. Hey, y'all. Woo woo. W-raid. Ice Flow, True Key Main, Solo. What's up, y'all?